All right, we're starting a bit early today or late, depending on your work schedule. I don't discriminate. I just got off working 12 years on the graveyard shift at a tech company, so I know what it's about. Working weird hours. Want to just do a bunch of bass and effects and random design for a while, and then we'll go back to the project from the last stream and finish making like toms and cymbals and whatnot for the break. I wanted to separate that just for now, just to keep it fresh, but also when I finish those breaks and they're fully processed, I have to run them through my front end bus. And the MIDI file that bounces out like a long enough note for like the cymbals and all that stuff, like I shortened it as much as I could over the last few years, like honing that down, but it's still about a half an hour long, meaning for every single break I want to bounce out. If I want to bounce out every single hit on the kit, it takes about a half an hour to do that in real time. So that's something I'm obviously going to need to do off stream. So we'll do some design today, and then at the end create different variations of those breaks, and then that way I can just bounce them all off stream later today, and then we can pick back up tomorrow once they're in battery. So what I've been liking doing lately is drawing tables in phase plant. There's just one small hump I can't get over, so I'm hoping to figure it out today. But basically, like I'm liking drawing stuff in manually and then like slowly morphing it across the table. You'll see in a second. But what would be really nice would be to be able to plug in like signs and saws wherever you want and keep the morph intact. Like you'll see what I mean in a second. Like here, if I could just tell it to do another sign and morph there, like if I do that, it won't morph back this way. It's really weird. I don't know. I'm still getting used to this interface. Like it's really powerful. It's just kind of a little finicky. So the way that I get around that to just keep it morphing throughout, like this part won't be morphed either because I didn't change this sign at all. So hold on, let me start over. Let's just change it a little bit. For whatever reason, I've noticed if you change this first one, and then you can create this next one and draw it manually, and it'll auto-morph it. But for whatever reason, if you start dry, it won't. I don't know why that is. So like there, I can click back here, and then now it'll morph back to there. But if I try to create like a new saw here, I don't know. It's weird. We'll see. Like here, I'll try to make this just a straight saw and see if I can morph it back to here. See what it did? It like overwrote all that stuff. It didn't morph it back here. It just copied a saw all the way back here. So I'm glad I got that out of the way because that's the only thing that's been keeping me from using this for literally everything because it's so cool and powerful. You can just draw in and then morph between them. But so what I'm going to do is just avoid, I'm going to have to manually draw things like this saw in. So what I like doing is kind of alternating between kind of a sine shape and then a saw shape. And I kind of, it's there's no way to like be like, I want to hear this and then draw in the manual waveform. Like nobody can do that. So you just have to get lucky no matter what. So it's fun to just draw random shapes and cut into them and then just see how it sounds in the finished product. And it takes so little time that you don't have to worry about making it perfect. It's more about kind of just knocking on doors and experimenting. And I'm not listening to it on purpose because sometimes you'll want it to go a certain way and you can't. And like at this point, I know this is going to just at least be cool and dynamic and interesting over this time. And then I can chop out the parts I want. And then in the end, what we'll do here is bounce out a bunch of these and then load them into my proprietary sampler in Max for Live. That's a looping sampler that uses the window length as a modulation time. And we can kind of like get cool little repeating Reeses and weird patterns out of all these later. It's just like another layer of resampling, basically. Cool. It's not bad. It's not super great, but there's a couple of spots there that I think could be useful. You can also like smooth it out a little bit. And that can help, but honestly, sometimes it just dulls it. Like it just blurs it a little bit. And I think I've been using this method I've been doing this for a few months, like drawing in the actual waveforms. And my experience so far, it seems like not frame blending usually yields better results. Because for some reason, like the more drastic, like right there, you can see kind of this, like see that area of the waveform, how it goes from like almost like a saw to like, those kinds of quick transitions and things that like don't necessarily morph smoothly into each other, they're just forced to end up sounding cooler for some reason. Just the more drastic kind of forced morphs. So I'm going to undo that frame blend. You can kind of hear it leaves a little bit more of the dirt in it too. I don't know how to explain it, but I think it's just a matter of just a little less interpolation between. It's not like blurring two frames together. It's pretty tame. I guess I was thinking simple at first, but I think to get more interesting stuff, we'd want to do a little bit crazier waveforms, like crazier nodes that we're interpolating between. This was pretty basic. So maybe we can use this for like a mid instead of a bass. I've been liking bouncing just really simple like dual voice mid sweep type sounds, like but like with two notes. I don't know why. I've just been listening to old tunes that I love, and I notice like some of my favorite mids are like that, where they're not necessarily bass mids, but they're like maybe like a flute that's been distorted or a guitar or something, but also that has a harmony on it. Like maybe not necessarily a chord, but you can really get what I like about just like a two-note chord, not a triad. I guess that would be a dyad. I don't know if that's the official, just two notes. Like sometimes you can capture a lot of vibe with a two note harmony, but not it doesn't get too God, what's the word? Like normal. Like it's more ambiguous. You can, like a 2-note harmony, you can kind of keep things a little looser, diatonically speaking. So like if that just means like musically speaking, it the more triads you use, the more clear, obviously, the diatonic like progression of the song. Like it's going to be very, very rigid because you've included like, you know, you can get much cooler stuff with implied intonation and stuff like that, like in like Chopin nocturnes and stuff like that, where he doesn't ever like play a bottom note for a while, and you're kind of just wondering where the hell, like what key is this song even in for a second. And I'm not that into stuff like that, but I mean, in electronic music, I think keeping that looser ends up sounding a lot better, especially on the dance floor. Like I've just always struggled with putting too much musicality into stuff and killing the dancey vibe of it. So that's been my latest kind of epiphany with that, is like you can add a lot of vibe and emotion with just like having one sound, just add just one layer of harmony above it, you know, whether that's a third or a fifth or whatever. You can start to approach like a really strong emotional musical vibe without committing too much to it, if that makes sense. That was a really long-winded way of saying that, but I'm just a huge fan of dyad stuff these days. I wanted to mention also, this is kind of just a hack for me, for my brain, but I have this little case of just flashcards that I made for different sound types, and I don't follow it that rigidly, but it's really nice to just sit down sometimes and pull out like a random card and do what it says. So this one says a quick chirp with fast modulation. So like I just want to make a quick chirp sound with some really quick, you know, effects modulation. So that'll help me kind of dictate what I want to do with this sound now. I don't always use those. Like sometimes I'll pull a card out and disagree with it and be like, I don't want to do that right now. But it has helped me a lot, like especially with just raw sound design sessions to have. And you can use like a random number generator or something. Like you can create your own little script, or like just throw a dart at a wall, whatever, just to be like, okay, let's make this type of sound, or and keep it loose to where you're not, you know, it's just like a way to not have to fuss and worry about, oh, what should I work on right now? Like, oh, here's something I can do. So quick chirp with fast modulation, and then I'm going to make it a dyad like I was just talking about. I also really like bouncing out these. I call these just seconds because it's just a minor second interval, literally just one semitone up or down. Usually when I'm sound designing, I'll try to include both, like because sometimes with just doing the seconds, you get really cool beating from the dissonance. But we're doing a quick chirp, so I'm going to try to find something that's a little bit more. And sometimes, something to just be aware of is you can, like, if you do a minor third or a major third, like right now I'm just going to design this with maybe potentially as a tune in F in mind. And I usually that's kind of my epicenter of my default, what I'm tuning stuff to is going to be F. But something to be aware of is like with minor and major thirds, if you commit to a sound being a minor third, like here, you might think like, oh, okay, well I can't use that for F here anymore, but you can, because that could be the minor third here for F minor. But if you have a major third, just move it up to the third, and then it'll be the third and the 5. So like both of those are in the key of F minor, but you know, one's a major third and one's a minor third. So it can be useful to think in those terms to where you're leaving some room open to where you can use it later. I think because this is so basic, it doesn't have a lot of like upper harmonics in it. It's probably going to lend itself better to like a second like this, to where it's just kind of dissonant and beating, and then we can filter it weirdly. Next time, I'm going to try to make more interesting harmonics in here. This was a pretty basic one. That's kind of like a chirp. And I like when I'm moving around stuff like this, I try to keep that in mind for in a bit, because I'm going to bounce this all to audio, and I want to have different variations. So like, obviously going to keep this second here and move it up and down a couple octaves and a few different intervals when I go to bounce it. And I'm just kind of thinking about that as I'm going here. I don't think it matters that much, but let me put a clipper on my master here. Ow. That's kind of cool because it kind of turns into a bird at the end. I like birds. I'm a sucker for bird sounds. Especially with like really big, nice sounding reverb, those kind of like chirpy, high sine square type sounds can really sound cool. Maybe not for this sound, but this is just supposed to be a short little chirpy mid. I'm already probably spending too much time on it for what its potential is. If I had changed that to band reject instead of band pass, I would have probably moved that back here and not done it in parallel. The reason I did that in parallel is just for this kind of boost. Like it can be cool to do like band pass stuff in parallel. Just for a little extra movement, you know? I don't know. I don't even like this sound that much, but maybe we can do a little post-processing. I feel like this could sound cool with some time-based effects, like a quick slapback with like some weird added like I don't know, maybe like a harmonizer or something. was doing that. It was weird. It was on fully wet, no feedback. You'd think there'd be one tap, but there wasn't even one tap. I'll have to remember that. That I kind of like. I always forget to do the non-easy version so that I can just draw in the envelope on how long it lasts. So I'm just going to remember it's medium 5. It's pretty cool, but I think this might be like, yeah, I think this like drifts automatically. I'm sure there's a way to turn it off, but I don't mind. I'm just going to just need to bounce out like eight of them. Find a couple that are sweet spot worth using. But I do like that. I like the kind of the squeakiness of it, it's almost like a balloon a little bit. And those sounds can just be really cool in fast edits, and that'll for sure be useful eventually. But I'm not going to spend any more time on it. What I am going to do is throw it through a little color bus template I have. It's in KV Element. So it just goes through a bunch of really just like transparent coloring. It's barely even like really noticeable. It just kind of like adds a bunch of dumb artifacts and stuff. I don't even know that I really like need to do this. I started doing it like a year ago, and I'll do it every once in a while when I'm bouncing stuff just to think about like I just like imprinting color as early as possible so that I'm not trying to overcompensate later because it sounds so cold and digital, you know? Especially going straight out of phase plant, you know, with just directly drawing the waveforms, it's inherently going to sound really, really cold at first. So that was part of the reason I started doing this, was for sounds like that where it just needs to sound a little bit more realistic and dirty. And then now what I'm going to do is send it through my Neves as well. They're just preamps, 1073s. Well, I need to change the name of my speakers. God, it's been a couple years. I like having those properly named. It just helps with like mental mapping and logistics. I think that should be plenty. Actually, maybe not. Did you hear how it was kind of like breaking up there? There's definitely like a cycle of detuning going on. Nice. I think we got it. These first ones were pretty kick-ass, actually. Yeah, I really like those. Sorry, I still had it monitoring, so what you were hearing just now was still this up here. Nice. Not a bad sound. Took forever, though. Half an hour for one sound is kind of a lot, but, you know, it's a cool mid. And it's something I would not have normally done if I hadn't seen this card that said quick chirp, with a fast modulation. Like, sometimes it helps to just give yourself a little random guide every once in a while. Just normalizing it before I bounce it. Sorry, I'm just debating in my head whether or not I want to be saving individual projects for each one of these sounds or just keep them all in the one stream project. I think I'm going to keep them separate. I like having things kind of consolidated like that. Or not consolidated, but compartmentalized rather. So give me a second just to think of where I want to bounce and save this. I think I'm just going to put it to all my regular folders. I was debating on whether or not I wanted to create like a whole new file structure for just the stream stuff I'm doing as opposed to normal projects, but I'd rather not. I'm just going to put it all where I would normally put my stuff. Okay, it's like now I have that sound, and if I ever want to go back and redo any of it or anything, I can just open this project right up, bounce a different version if I need to, etc. I guess I was supposed to go back and do a bunch of different notes and stuff, but the sound became kind of more like I added more harmony. I guess we could try just bouncing out some different octaves really quick. Hold on. It is always, I always regret not doing this enough. It is always a good idea to bounce out as many variations, especially if a sound is already pretty good. Like it's, you know, you may only end up using 2 or 3 in the final project out of like 20 or 30, but it's usually worth it. What I'll probably do is end up overriding that initial wave I just created with just this long one here. So I'm just liking where this is going. So I'm doing also fifths as well as octaves. I don't know if I want to go much higher. That's already into kind of ear bleed range. You know what that one could be good for would be like almost using like a drum fill and a build up, like ding it, ding it, ding it, ding it, ding it, ding it, ding, like kind of open it up because it's just so high. It's gonna just kind of adds that kind of stress factor. Good for build ups. All right, that ought to do it for this one for sure. I'm just going to do a straight bass here. Not going to really follow any. I don't need to use a card or anything. But I think I'm going to go for like a, I call them twofers. That's just a name I made up for when it's like when you have a sound that goes like boo wump, like boo wump, or tijung, doo-wah, tijak, tijak, anything like that. Those are twofers, as I call them. So I'm gonna try to do a few of those here. Doing those really drastic vertical lines will usually give stuff kind of a weird, squarey, bit crushed kind of sound, which I like sometimes. I don't know if it necessarily worked for what I was going for in my head, but I was just kind of farting around. Like it's really hard to predict what exactly it's going to do. And like I said, I like surprising myself with it more than trying to get a specific kind of thing, you know? So this is a really fun thing in phase plan is designing your own morphing filter, like using those same nodes. So like what we can do is start with a saw, which is basically going to be like a low pass. So like what you can do here, just be safe, I'm going to draw on this because I don't know why, but sometimes if you leave it just the default waveform, it doesn't auto-morph the first time. That's not going to make any difference there. If anything, it'll just smooth the slope. So this will end up being basically a low pass. But this actually is the filter shape you're going to be drawing. Like this is what it looks like. And that is what a low pass looks like because that's a normal slope down all the way up. So and essentially in the end, that's going to be like a flat line. So what you can do is then just start digging holes in it as if it was the filter itself. But it has to be this mode right here to do that. So yeah, I'm totally random with this too. You can kind of do weird comey stuff and then like put those in different spots on this next node, and it won't like slide them over, but it will interpolate between them. So it can be cool to do a bunch of these, but I'll do usually just like 4 or 5 and kind of broad strokes. So here's the thing that I would really wish you could do is I wish I could just insert a saw right here. If I do that, I'll lose the interpolation going forward and backward. It's kind of weird. Like watch here. So now, see, I guess, is that how you do it? I think that erases this one. Like this one's gone now. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. Just for me, I've just found it's way easier to just redraw it every time to make sure that the interpolation's going smooth the whole time. So I'm just gonna start over really quick. Obviously, be aware that spikes like this can end up causing problems. So sometimes you don't want to go overboard with that, especially up here. You don't want to be. You'll just end up with ear bleed. And it's kind of cool. It's like a nice, cool, unique growl, but it's uniquely unique. Like there's no way anybody else will have that exact same sound because I literally drew in all this shit from scratch. So it's like I kind of like doing that just because you know you're gonna have something totally original. We got kind of a cool formant kind of sound in there, so I'm gonna try to maybe emphasize that a little bit, maybe with the formant filter or maybe some EQ or something. I always recommend trying out the raw setting here because you get some really weird like pitch transients. When you do stuff like this and you draw in these manually, a lot of times you'll get a weird kind of like dimming of the high end. It's not so much dimming as it just the high end really starts to sound super unnatural because there's no like continuity, and you'll get kind of weird, you know, like especially right here, like this stuff is kind of taking out a lot of the brightness from the sound, which can, yeah, I don't know, might be worth like creating a duplicate in parallel and like high passing it and distorting it just to kind of fill in up there a little bit. This could sound better with like a little bit more attack too. This transient shaper specifically is great for those kinds of twofer sounds because of this pump function. You can really get the doo-wah. That unintended tail might be the best part of the sound after all, anyway. Ooh, okay, so what I'm going to do instead is try to make this a good resampler for my sampler, because something like this, fluctuating really quick between stuff like that, is perfect for that sampler. So give me 1 second. I'm just going to do like a long mass line, which is just like a, it's old DOA term where you just like kind of make a long audio sample with a bunch of different like a bunch of different stuff. It's not supposed to be the final pattern. It's just like a wave to collect all the different modulations that you want for that sound, if that makes sense. But I was sounding way cooler when I was doing it manually with the mouse here, just randomly. So I'm gonna record that really quick. And anytime you see me just do N, that just means it's going through my Neve. So I'm just basically throwing it through my front end bus and back in really quick. PP just means phase plant, but that's just funny. Cool. That one took much less time, and once we resample that in my loop delta sampler, it's going to be awesome. Because having those really quick, like dry, wet throws to the reverb will end up sounding really cool when they're looped and like cycled. I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be right back. I'm going for an hour. Okay, change of plan. What I'm actually going to do is just stop the stream for a little bit and come back in like a half an hour or an hour. It's so early in the morning, and it's so early in my streaming in general. I don't have any live watchers ever, so I'm not worried about like stopping the stream and just stacking up the VODs. Especially sometimes I think if these VODs are shorter and more focused, like you can just go to the one that has the one sound you want to look at and move on. I will do longer streams, but while I'm building up, I'm not worried about doing like 3 or 4 streams a day so that they end up being like hour-long videos. So I'll be back in a little bit, and we'll just do another round of sounds. This will also give me the opportunity to check for technical difficulties.